Thank you, Sharice. That's very kind. I want to say thank you to Rise NYC for inviting me to do this. I'm very excited. Also, thank you to Rise for hosting us. This space is awesome, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but your chairs rock, and it's for people who have ADD. So you can move. They're like rocking chairs. I love it. So I really do want this to be an interactive session, and that means literally raise your hands in the middle of me speaking. It's very important that we have a dialogue and a discussion here. So at any point in time, at any point in time, if you have questions, please raise your hands and ask me. I do want to get a show of hands. Who in the room is currently an entrepreneur? And who in the room wants to become an entrepreneur? And who is in the room just because they like me? I love that. Okay, so does anybody want to volunteer to me what you want to get out of this talk today, for those of you who are aspiring entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs who might want to grow your business or solve some problems? Does anybody have a specific ask to make sure I cover it? Anyone? 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 Yeah. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to say is I would love for you guys to connect to me on social media. I didn't put any of my stuff up here, but my name's Samira Salman. I'm on Twitter. I think there's an underscore. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. I love to connect with people, and if you have follow-up questions that you don't want to ask this evening, feel free to ask me when we speak later. So what I was going to do is I was going to give you a little bit of my journey and my entrepreneurial history, and then I was going to talk a little bit about what I think some of the keys to entrepreneurial success are in my humble opinion. So, like Sharice said, I grew up in the Middle East and Europe, and I always did what my parents told me to do. So I went to college, and then I went to law school, and I became a corporate tax lawyer. I practiced in public accounting. I practiced at Arthur Andersen and some of the other firms, and then I was in-house at Shell Oil Company. And at that point in my career, I think I was like 30 or 31 years old, and I had this big fancy corporate tax lawyer job. And I was also the vice chair of the American Bar Association Energy and Environmental Taxes Committee, which meant I wrote tax law with Congress. And I was traveling all over the world at these big Shell business meetings, and we were putting deals together. And I was like, this cannot be it. Like, this cannot be what life is about. I was bored to tears. I felt like every day I took myself, my personality, like who I really am, I put myself in a little box, and I put it on my shelf in my office, and then I did my job, like, do my job. Then I would take my little box myself, and I'd bring myself home, and I would, like, live my life. And I realized that the times in my life I enjoyed the most were breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I was connecting with people. I was talking about whatever, okay? Can I get a name in? You should see, y'all can't see what I'm seeing, but they're hysterical back here. Okay, so I was on this business trip for Shell, and I was in London, and I'm sharing some details here because I think how everybody like starts their entrepreneurial journey is interesting, right? So and we had just had this amazing meal at some super nice restaurant, and I was in a super gorgeous hotel room. And I remember it was one of those where you press the button and the curtains open to a beautiful view. And I sat up in my bed that morning, and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And for me, the stark contrast of the beautiful meal and the gorgeous room, and everything was so great and perfect, but really I was miserable. But at this point, I did not know why I was miserable. I didn't really know it was because of my career. I just knew I wasn't happy. But again, I had checked off everything off the list. I had a great education, had a fantastic job, made a lot of money, I had great friends, beautiful home, like you name it, I had it, but I wasn't happy. So I didn't understand what the issue was. Like, why am I not happy? Because I checked everything off the list, I did everything I was supposed to do to have this life to make me happy. So when I came back from my trip, I hired a bunch of people because I did not know how to fix my problem. So I hired a therapist, a personal trainer, a feng shui consultant, a career counselor. I literally hired all these people in 1 week, and I told them all, I'm like, look, people, I'm not happy. This is my situation. I was like, we gotta figure this out. And they're like, what? And they're like, you don't need therapy. And I'm like, really? But I'm gonna pay you every week to come here and therapy me. So they made me take all these tests. Like I had to take a test that was like 540 multiple choice questions to find out if I was like depressed or like to boil bunny rabbits. And the lady was like, "You're totally normal." I'm like, "Well, why am I not happy?" So this process goes on for about a year and a half. I'm still working at Shell. I'm still practicing tax law. But I'm like, I gotta get happy. And I'm also like buying these books. And keep in mind at this point, all my friends are lawyers, okay? So nobody really talks about any, like, I wanna do something differently with my life. Like, we used to engage in what we refer to as retail and cocktail therapy, right? So, like, my day at work sucks, so I'm gonna go buy some shoes and have wine with my girlfriends, right? Like, what else do you do? So I didn't really have anybody to talk to about this either. So all these people I hired, like the feng shui consultant lady told me to buy this book, and on the front of the book was like a dove, you know, like flying. So I go on a girls trip with my law school girlfriends, and I'm reading my book with a dove on it, and they're totally making fun of me. And they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm trying to get happy, just leave me alone." So this process literally goes on for a year and a half, and I'm not really speaking to anybody about it because to them, you know, I'm kind of being a freak and I don't know who to talk to because everybody's a lawyer. So after all of this, I determined that, you know, I really was not in the right career and I needed to do something differently, but I was so miserable in my current career that I really couldn't figure it out. So the next part, I'm giving you a very big disclaimer. Do not do what I did. I'm gonna tell you what I did because that's why I'm up here speaking, to tell you what I did, but I'm saying don't do it because I just got really lucky, okay? But literally what I did was I woke up one day, it was February 6, 2008, and I was like, today is the day. And I just knew it, and I quit my job that day. Now, I didn't technically have a plan at this point, like I did not know what I was gonna do. But I knew I was not practicing law anymore, and I knew that I wanted to do something where I got paid to talk to people at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's like, I'm gonna make that a job. I was like, I'm gonna make this a job. So I went in that day and I quit, and my boss is like, you can't quit. I'm like, yes, I can. So this conversation goes on for a while, and so I had to cut a deal with my corporate job. Like I didn't have to go to work anymore, but they were still gonna pay me, and I had to keep my BlackBerry for a certain time period until they found an appropriate replacement. So I quit that day, and then I started kind of running my starting a business. And what happened was I sat down and I said, okay, what do I really love to do? What am I good at doing? What do I enjoy doing? What can people pay me to do? And I went through this kind of process, and I actually made, I made 3 columns, and it was interest. So what am I interested in? Abilities, what am I good at? And then the third thing was the marketplace. So what would people pay me to do? So, and we'll get into this piece later, but unless you're getting paid, you're just having a hobby, right? So I did all this kind of stuff, and I realized, you know, I want to help other people grow their companies and brands. That's what I'm really good at. So at this point, I was a corporate tax lawyer, so I was really good at financial, accounting, tax, building financial models, putting deals together, doing the structure, licensing IP. That part I knew from my job. I taught myself, and I got engaged in the pieces that are marketing, HR, PR, that kind of stuff, and I said, I'm gonna help people grow their businesses. But at this point, I had only worked in the professional services field. So the name Salman Solutions came to me, and so I just bought the URL, and for years, I didn't even really have a real website. I just had a couple sentences on that, because the first thing I did was get somebody to pay me to help them with their businesses, right? I didn't need to have a fancy website and business cards. That's cash out. I needed cash in first before cash went out. So I started a consulting business, and my clients were professional services firms, because this is the area I knew: law firms, accounting firms, financial planning firms, marketing firms, etc. And I started sitting with the heads of companies, listening to what their challenges were, and helping them kind of, you know, put together a strategy and a team to solve those challenges. So a lot of these firms, they wanted to grow to different regions. They wanted to increase, you know, the number of people that work there. They wanted to increase the number of clients they had, these kind of things, which were things I had been doing in my profession the whole time. So the whole time I was practicing law and working in the accounting firms and at Shell, I was also building a client base at the accounting firms. At Shell, I was helping grow certain business divisions. So these were skill sets that I had from my corporate kind of job. So after I did this for a while, just straight up consulting and professional services, I decided I wanted to transition industries. So I did some research and I said, where is a place where I can do something a little bit more creative? Like at this point, I'm bored of the accounting and the tax and all that kind of stuff. So I chose the luxury industry because it's a place where there's room to build and grow and develop businesses. So the energy industry, finance industry, those are saturated with consultants and advisors, but in the beauty industry, there's not a lot of business advisors. So there's a lot of marketing, PR, that kind of stuff. So I knew that was an area that I could make an impact and it wasn't very crowded, right? The other thing was, I realized a lot of these companies are in positions where they might have something great going, but they don't have a lot of capital. So that's when I started raising funding from investors. And I was building financial models, and the first time I did it, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I did a lot of what I call informational interviewing. So I interviewed about 10 to 15 high net worth individuals who were invested in projects. And I said, what are the things that you look for when making an investment? What are the types of, people that you want to invest in and projects you want to invest in? So I did my diligence and my research so I could learn. And then I also asked the people that raised funding, I asked questions around, what are the mistakes you made? What do you wish you would have done differently? So at that point, Salmon Solutions transitioned into being more of a kind of business advisory, but also we did fundraising, we put deals together. And so I had a couple of clients that came to me. One was in the fashion industry, one was in skincare, cosmetics, and one was in hair. And they came to me in like October, November, and they were like, we need business plans, we need funding, we need all this kind of stuff. And we had them all at Fashion Week in New York and Paris by February. So it was one of those things, like, I really didn't know what I was doing, but I just did it. I was totally the Nike commercial, and I read everything I could. I read the 10 Ks and Qs and everything I could get my hands on for all the companies in the industries. I just really educated myself, and I figured it out. So I did that for a while, and then I was ready to transition my business to the next thing. I was like, okay, what's next? As y'all can tell, I get bored very easily. So the next thing, I decided I wanted to grow my business a little more, take it to the next level, and bring in the international component. So I came here to New York, and I was working on some projects with some people. Then I moved down south again. My family's down south, and I was freezing, by the way. Like, the weather here is terrible. So I moved down south again. I started working on some really big projects there. I started teaching executives at the business school negotiations and stakeholder management. I started moderating big entrepreneurship week panels and all that kind of stuff. So I felt at this time I had the best of both worlds, because I was in the South around my family and friends, but kind of a leader in the business community there. And then I could come up here in New York and I could integrate and get bits and pieces of what I needed to, and then kind of move back and forth. So I did that for a couple of years, and I really wanted to start building and growing and helping people put deals together, but on an international level. And so I got involved with some very awesome people who are in this room tonight. Margot Lazaro is right there, and Isaac Rishad, who's my business partner now. And I started doing a lot with the UN, and Margot kindly asked me to join her committee and speak on her committee, and then I've done some other speaking. And through all those experiences, Isaac and I have formed a partnership now. We worked on a lot of deals together, but now we actually put deals together and help countries and regions of the world and big, social good programs. So we do a lot of, in the aviation and security, we help meet needs and put deals together. We also do women and youth initiatives. We do some in the infrastructure world, and then we do some impact investing and like family office engagement and certain social causes. So that company is called Global Access Partner, and we're really big dot connectors. We see where the opportunities are, and we help facilitate and put the deals together. And a lot of that comes from the experience of being in the business world for so long and putting deals together and just understanding what it takes to actually, connect the dots. So I'm gonna take a little pause so I can breathe and look at my notes. And I'm just wondering, can they turn these lights down at all? It is like hot. I mean, I don't think I need to be like super spotlighted. I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss anything very important that I wanted to share with you guys. So I think that my journey has been a very interesting one, and it's been kind of a little. Pardon?
You want to do the slides or
Oh, not yet. No, I need these lights on this so I don't melt up here. So I think that as an entrepreneur, one of the best things you can do is have a lot of tools in your toolbox. So one thing I want to make clear is that everything that I've experienced in my corporate job and in my entrepreneurial life, and some, stops and starts and bumps and all that, it's all part of the process. Okay, so once you get comfortable with the fact that like this is it, this is what it's going to be, and whatever happens, you just have to flow with it. Something I wish I would have learned a little bit sooner in the process, because I was very kind of A-type and thought things needed to be a certain way. The next thing is that, I do believe that everybody has a certain path in life, and so even if you're at a corporate job and you hate it, like my being a corporate tax lawyer allows me to do the deals I do today. Had I not had that life, there's no way I could have this life. So the other piece I wanted to share, does anybody have any questions or comments so far? Yes, yay.
When you say that you did something for a while, how long, like a while before you got bored, are you talking like 3 months or 3 years? Or?
I have an attention span of a dead gnat. So for me, when I started Salman Solutions, it was February of 2008, and my goal my first year was like, do not lose my house. Like that was my goal, right? And then the second year it was to build the company, et cetera, et cetera. So I pretty much, every summertime, I do kind of a reevaluation, but my cycle is about 18 to 24 months, and then 18 to 24 months. And so I determine something new, and then I build it, and I launch it. And then I determine something new, build it, and launch it. That's my personal cycle, because that gives me enough time to actually get traction and get way deep under projects and build strong foundations. Some people do things faster, some people do things slower, but that's my time period. Yes.
Samira, thank you for the opportunity, but also like to know how do you deal with the fear? Because most of the time, the decision that you make is really connected to fear at certain level, and then at the personal level to deal with that and overcome it. It's basically because you are in this position right now. But how can you tell us or suggest people to deal with that particular feeling?
This is a really great question, and it's a question I'm asked a lot. Do you have a follow-up? Yeah?
After.
That one. Okay.
Wait.
Okay.
I have a very similar question.
Yes.
I think there's I'm sure a lot of people will agree with that or disagree with it, but there's a great level of privilege in being able to become an entrepreneur, right, and to pursue entrepreneurial, undertakings. Just because you did have your house, you had probably some savings, etc. And I think it is more difficult when you were, maybe younger, or when you're not at a stage in your life where you have savings and where you can actually rely on something and fall back on something. So this goes back to the question of fear, right? It's sort of having something to fall back onto. And you were saying you're either all in or not in at all. So
right.
When do you make that call, and what do you rely on exactly? Like, do you rely on money, or do you just rely on yourself, and you just have to have that confidence to get right into it?
Right. So these are all really good questions. I'm going to answer them all, but I want to remind you guys what I said earlier. Don't necessarily do what I did. I literally quit my job. Like one day I woke up and quit my job. So fear, and I'm going to address that in the best way I know how. For me personally, it's not really an emotion that I possess. So I was never scared to quit my job, because I had gotten to the point where there was no other alternative. Like if I had to go to that place one more time, I was gonna die. So I was like, it was that bad, right? But at the same time, this is what I always kept in my head. Well, number one, I didn't really think that way, but number two, I had done 1.5 years of analysis, research, meetings, hiring people to figure out what do I need to be doing with my life, okay? So I had done the homework to determine that I needed to be an entrepreneur, okay? So once I'd done all that homework and I made the decision, it was a very well-reasoned decision, and I knew I had made the right one because I'd spent 1.5 years making it. I'd spoken to all kinds of experts, et cetera, et cetera. So, a lot of people told me, you should be an entrepreneur, you're really good at this, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that's the case with everybody. So, one thing I would encourage you to do is sit with successful entrepreneurs and be like, hey, do you think I can do this, The other thing is, I was still a lawyer. I still am a lawyer. So, if this didn't work out, I'd go get a job. And that's the thing, I think entrepreneurs don't think about that. Like, you can go get a job right now. I'm sure somebody's hiring, right? So that's the thing. Like, if it doesn't work out and you really made a bad decision, go get you a job. Like, it's easy like that. You know, it's not really all or nothing. And I think that's something that we don't talk about. You know, a lot of these magazines like Inc. and Entrepreneur, they write all these like top 10 tips and all this kind of stuff, but they don't tell you like, what do you do if you made a mistake and you really are not cut out for entrepreneurial life? And then go back and get a job. So, does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Does that
Just,
answer?
I'm sorry, it is actually answer my question, but also a kind of follow-up is in terms of, you made a connections for internal feelings in terms of, you know, that you wanted to become an entrepreneurial, and you made a decision. But in terms of fears, it also goes beyond money issue, because it also, you were looking for happiness, which is something that is not can be measured in terms of monetary terms. So how you connect your internal feelings on the searching of happiness with the idea of becoming entrepreneurial, that would be the right decision.
This is a really good question. I don't think, I'm trying to get back to the time. At the time, I don't think I knew. Okay, I did not know how to spell the word entrepreneur until I had been, I'm not even joking, like I spent a week learning how to spell the damn word, because it's hard. And I didn't know that I should be an entrepreneur until I had been one for a while. It took me a long time to, I call it shedding the corporate veil kind of thing, even though it's such a law school term, shedding the corporate feeling. Like, I used to feel guilty if I did anything but work from 8 to 5, you know, but that's not an entrepreneur's life. So I didn't know at the time that it was gonna work, and I didn't know I was gonna be happy, but I knew the other alternative was not working. So my invitation to everybody is this: if what you are doing is not working, you need to try something else. And that doesn't mean the next thing you try is gonna work, but you gotta try it. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're gonna remain miserable. So I believe, I quote the Nike commercial all the time, and I hope they don't send me a cease and desist letter, but I'm all about just do it. Plan, prepare, think, make a plan, and then do it. Act. Action is what moves you, okay? So I think it's really important to, wherever you are in your life, say, okay, what's working, what's not working, whatever's not working, pick one thing to do differently and do that. And if it works, then pick another thing, then pick another thing. If it doesn't work, step back. But it doesn't have to be this like all or nothing situation. That's why I said don't do what I did. I just quit my job. And I'm happy to address this, but I had just bought my house. So I was like, and I didn't have a ton of savings at that point because I put a lot of it in my house, you know, and there's this whole dilemma between when you're married and you have a family, you don't have as much freedom to quit your job, but then when you're single, you don't have somebody helping you pay your mortgage. So it's this whole, okay, we can all be like the grass is greener. But the bottom line is, if you keep making a plan B and C and D, my business partner and I disagree on this, by the way, but I believe your plan A is gonna fail if you have like 20 contingencies. But if you know you have to get out there, I knew I had to get out there and I had to make X amount of dollars in a certain time period, pay my mortgage and feed myself. Like, I did it because I didn't have a choice. But if I had like 47 choices, it's harder to do one choice. So that's why you have to make baby steps and moving in the right direction. And you have to sometimes clear the clutter. Like, there's a lot of these articles I read and they tell you to make a website and do all this stuff, and you've already spent all this money and you haven't made $1. Like, that is not the way the world works. Make some money first and then start, you know, doing whatever you need to do. So I hope that answers part of that piece of the stuff.
So as an entrepreneur, you know, you have your own schedule. What are your top 3 tips to keeping yourself organized?
Oh Lord, I love this question. I say it like that because I'm really behind right now. I took an unexpected 3 weeks off in August because my mom got sick. But my top 3 tips, number 1, I always make a list, okay? Always make a list, always. Before you start working, sit down and figure out what is the priority. Always on the top of my list is things that bring in revenue now. Okay, so there's a lot of nice to do's, want to do's, but then there's like need to do to get cash. Those always go on the top of the list. I always make my list and I plan out my week and I live and die by my calendar, and I'm very protective of my time. So I don't do a lot of time wasting activities. So I choose very diligently who do I meet with, what do I do with my time, what organizations do I get involved with, who do I go to dinner with. And I'm gonna have a section here where I talk about spirit and self, and I'll go through a little bit of that more in detail. The other thing is, I think it's very important to know ways of working that work for you, and that's part of, I talk about make your own rules, but there's a lot of time management techniques that talk about pick one task, focus on it, only check your email, every hour, whatever. That doesn't work for me, y'all. It took me a long time to figure that out, but if I have 7 things to do, I have to do all 7 things at one time on my computer, and then they all get done. But if I try and do one thing, and then the next thing, it doesn't work. Because my brain does not process that way. My brain processes simultaneously and does 20 things at once. So I have to work that way in order to be effective. So I think that the most important thing for time management is to understand what works for you. Are there certain times of the day that you're sluggish? Don't put really important meetings in, or don't try to make yourself do a project that you don't want to do at that time. I don't do well at 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon, so I never do anything super I couldn't probably, giving this talk at 2:30 in the afternoon would not be easy for me. So I'm like a night owl. It doesn't matter how tired I am. At 10 o'clock, I'm wide awake till 2 a.m. That's my most creative time. So, hence my days of club. No, so what I'm saying to you, what I'm saying is you have to know what works for you, okay? And you have to be honest with yourself about it, and it might not work for other people, time management-wise. And you have to learn to say, no, I can't do that, or I'm sorry, that doesn't work with my schedule, or whatever it is. And you have to be really brutal with that, because for me, every single minute I'm not engaged in an income generating activity, it's cash out of my pocket. Nobody's paying me if I'm not doing what I need to do to get paid. So I'm very vigilant about that, and I don't apologize for it, because unless you want to start paying my mortgage, that's how I feel about it. So. Yeah, so I really invite you, and with your family too. With your family, if they want to pay your mortgage, then fine, they can have, whatever, but the family is a tough one, because they're like, you're always working. Yes, because I'm an entrepreneur. I also wanted to address another thing. I do believe that entrepreneurship is it's kind of not for everybody. Either you're born to be one or you're not. Now, some of us were born to be them, and we went on this whole other path over here, okay? But it really is, I believe, a calling from God. And I think it is much easier, and it's much safer, and it's much saner to have a W-2 paycheck job and sit in your little office. I made a lot of money at Shell. I had every other Friday off. I had a big fancy title. Got to fly first class everywhere in the world. So why am I not doing that? And I had this conversation, this is how I explained it to my family, for those of y'all that have this issue. I was like, don't you think it would be easier for me to do that? To sit in my office, suck up air all day, type on my computer, fly a couple places. That's a lot easier. It's really a lot easier. It's a lot safer. But I'm not wired that way. So for me, I don't have a choice but to be an entrepreneur. I can go try and be in a job again, but it doesn't work for me. So I think that's something you have to be honest with yourselves. I do know a couple of people who are really good at both. They're really good corporate people, and then they're really good entrepreneurial people too, and they bounced in and out of both. More power to them. That is not me. So I think it's important to know, and if you don't know, go try. It's okay to step away from your corporate career, give something a shot. If it doesn't work, then move back into your corporate career. It's not, you're not chained one way or the other.
Samira. Sorry to
No, I love it. It's interactive, Carlos. Make it happen.
No, because
Yeah.
you really are touching a lot of issues that are very relevant for many people. Personally, I admire you a lot, and that's why I would like to ask you these things. But number one is because you said that you really start all this changing because you wanted to be happy. Let's say that way, all right? And then you make a decision to become an entrepreneurial, and then you said that in order to become an entrepreneur, you need to kind of prioritize some of the issues. So this is important because I know that eventually you said also that become an entrepreneurial, you have to have a kind of God calls. I'm not saying this is not contradictory. On the contrary, I believe what you're just saying. But my question is for you: are you happy now?
Oh my God, yes.
And then how you combine, this internal feeling with regards to uh, pursuing monetary issues that everybody knows, where everybody is doing that because it's a fact of life. But on the same time, that pursuit is not really, let's say, putting you on the material, if you like, agenda, but in a combination with your spiritual feeling and inner feelings or emotions toward happiness. I don't know.
So I think
How do you feel on that?
I'm going to explain it this way, okay? For me, I had a very successful career and made a lot of money, but I wasn't happy. And so that whole like money can't buy happiness. I mean, look, it can buy you stuff and nice stuff to do, but I felt like I wasn't, like, my soul was dead in the sense that I'm not really contributing anything. I'm just sucking up air in the world, okay? And so for me, I knew I wanted to be free. I wanted to be able to do what I wanted when I wanted. I could not stand having to be somewhere at the same time every day and having to sit there, and I hated it, okay? And even like when I was an M&A deal lawyer and we had FaceTime on the weekends, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing. Why do I have to be here at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning so we can all like look at each other and be like, hey, we came to the office? Like, I thought it was dumb, okay? So for me, I just knew I wanted to be free and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. That was the thing for me that's happened. To this day, it's like that. I want to do what I want to do. I only want to work with people I like working with. I want to feel good about how I'm spending my time, okay? And obviously making money, obviously. I mean, at this point, my rules are I need to work with people that work the way I do. That means they're responsive to emails, they're respectful, they move things forward, we have agendas, we respect each other's time, we have to work the same way. I have to like the people, I have to enjoy spending time with them, they have to be nice people, et cetera, et cetera. And we have to work on projects that aren't, harming people. We would like to do good in the world. And that's about it. Besides that, I don't really care what I'm doing. I mean, I can do an infrastructure deal, I can do a women empowerment deal. It doesn't matter to me as long as I really like the people I'm working with and I'm doing things that are making the world a better place and I'm making money. I believe in the nonprofit world. I think it's great. I sit on 500,000 boards, I've done that whole deal, but it is not how my mind works. I don't know how, so I will never be full-time nonprofit. We will always support nonprofits, they will be part of our business model, but I have to do business and make money. That's how I'm wired, and it took me a little while to figure out all those kind of pieces, but my brain doesn't think like that. So I would sit on a lot of nonprofit boards and I was like, what are they, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I know how to run a business and make money, so that's what I do. And so for me, I am happy now because I am in an environment surrounded with people doing things that I love to do, and I'm at my highest and best use, which is what I think is a big key to happiness, is highest and best use. So you gotta figure out what you're really good at and find people who will let you do that. So my business partner, these ladies up here and gentlemen, these people, I work with these people here, and they all know this is what Samira's good at. So they let me be Samira, and they do what they're good at. So that's what I said by, that's what I mean by saying people who work the way that you do. So that's, I mean, if that's the biggest thing I can say, because you hear all these stories about like people have partners and partnership didn't work out. It's not because they're bad people, it's because two people were like this. They didn't agree on how things needed to be done. It took me a little while to figure this one out. But now I understand, I know how I can function and thrive the best. I have to be in an environment where I'm doing what I need to do and there are people around me doing what they need to do, and we all work together harmoniously as a team. And I can't stop and argue with you about what color paper clips we order. Like, I don't care. So I think that's a big piece of happiness, is what your day is like. I mean, knock on wood, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, knock on wood, I'm really happy with how I spent my time today. I sat with some wonderful people. We did some amazing, we had an amazing strategy session. And now I'm here sharing my story with you guys. Like, that's good stuff for me. I didn't have to do anything I didn't want to do. So that's a big piece of my happiness. Like, I do not do anything I don't want to do anymore. I did for a long time. I don't have to anymore. But there's a piece of this that I believe in paying your dues. Like, I have paid my dues, and I worked the really yucky job, and I sat at my desk at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning for no reason. I want to come back to you because I promised Marco.
So Samira, you're actually an incredible inspiration. Not only to those of us who know you, but you've also inspired many people at the UN. Because of your leadership and your sincerity. Well, it's honest, it's the truth. And you know me, I'm always talking the truth. So, you know, but it's important for, you're an example of how to be, you made a jump from one career in 2008, which is an interesting year. They were looking at having a woman president, that didn't work out. But we had a black president. But anyway, so the point is, there is a transition going on globally, not just at the UN, involving women and equality and having more space for women in the jobs and in taking leadership roles. And it's being encouraged and endorsed around the world, actually. And you made that transition. I don't know, I haven't heard you say this, but was there any resistance to you as a woman going out there, or did you find it easy for yourself because you were so determined to make it happen for you? Is it something that was difficult? And how did you overcome it if it was?
This is my favorite topic. I'm so glad you asked this question. I'm about to get on the soapbox. Like, if I haven't been there already. All right, I think this is a really important piece of this. So my corporate career, I was in a very male-dominated field. So I was a tax lawyer in the energy industry. So many times I was the only woman in the room. And I think this is really important for us to understand. I think my view is very unique, and many people may not agree with it, but I believe in understanding the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is most of the money and power is with men, okay? That's the reality. I am okay with that reality. So I'm gonna lead us to where I think we need to be. My understanding of many women empowerment movements is they wanna fight that reality. You cannot win a battle if you're on the wrong battlefield, people, okay? You need to get at peace with the reality that the money and power is with men. You need to respect that. There's a reason it's like that. There's a reason we don't have it even though we're the stronger sex. So number one, we gotta start looking at each other and be like, why do we not have the money and the power? We need to fix that problem. That's a whole nother talk, okay? But number two, if you believe that reality to be true, you need to figure out how to work within that system. So a big key to my success was I did not shove myself down anybody's throat. I did not force it, I didn't push it. I paid my dues, and I paid them probably 5 times more than the guy next to me. I don't got a problem with that though. That is the reality, and I'm okay with it. You know why? It made me better at what I do. So because I didn't get to go there first, I went there the 5th time, I got really good at it. I knew what that hallway looked like, okay? And I've always been at peace with that. I respect the system and I respect the way it's set up. My business partner is a man. Why is that?
Gender equality.
That's because there are certain places in this world I will never be allowed in a business meeting. I don't care. He can go, okay? So I think this is a really important thing for women to understand, especially women that want to do real business, real deals, real money, okay? Get at peace with the fact that you're not going to be invited to every meeting. Doesn't make you any less intelligent or valuable. It just means you don't belong there. Don't go. And go and do what you need to do over here. I realize that many women they're not at peace with this, okay? But until we get at peace with it, we're never going to get ahead. They're not going to all of a sudden give us the money. Okay, so either you join them or you get out of the race because you're not going to beat them by running a site. There's one of you, there's 500,000 of them. So, I'm very, very passionate about this because I think we've done a disservice, the media really has done a disservice to women by hyping all this stuff up about, you know, we're not getting this, we're not getting that, we're not getting, it's not because they don't want to give it to us, it's because we're like trying to hold a gun to their head instead of standing next to them going, hey, how can we work together? What do you need from us? So I don't know if any of the men in the room want to comment on that, but that's my viewpoint on it. If anybody has any follow-up questions.
But but you were able to actually overcome any prejudice that you met and
Well, I mean,
you obviously have, but.
let's be honest. I mean, I don't know where the places I haven't been invited are because I wasn't invited there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. But what I do know is that I feel like I've respected the system enough to get invited into certain places at a certain time. And I understand that I'm not gonna be invited everywhere and I don't care. And it doesn't mean anything to me and I don't make an issue out of it. I like that men are men and women are women. I believe in gender roles. I believe that we all have our little place. I don't try and work with men like this. I'm the woman and I do my job and the man does his job and together we can get something. That's why, you know, okay, we could go on and on about this, but I also believe, you know, one thing the media did that was really bad is they threw out the statistic, only 7% of women-owned businesses get funded, or whatever that's set, only 7%, right? Something like that. That is because your business model sucks. It's not because men don't want to give money to women. Men who want to fund businesses want to fund businesses that have a solid business model and a solid management team. In the story. So when you go to pitch, and the guy says, ask some questions, poke some holes. Don't go back to your office and go, oh, he didn't like me because I'm a woman. Go, let me answer his questions, let me fix the holes, and I'm gonna go back. That's what guys do. Guys don't go, oh, he didn't like me because I was a guy. They go fix their business model, they go back, they get the funding. Women, and I have experienced this. I've had women call me, well, he didn't get it because he's a man. No, he really does get it. He gets it a lot because he's the head of one of the largest VC firms in the city. It's just your business model had some holes in it. And the media is what did this to us, ladies. Because I've raised a lot of money for a lot of businesses, and it was all from men, and nobody ever told me no, because I did all my homework, I filled out the holes.
Samira, sorry to interrupt you. I fully understand. No.
Because I'm gonna get
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I have two questions. One, would you say the same thing in regards to race, like that the roles are the way they are because it's supposed to be that way, and that people kind of have to accept that to rise above? And my second question is, there's a lot of psychological studies about unconscious bias that are like widely accepted. Do you not accept that, or do you reject those findings?
I believe all those things, but I'm gonna say this. I think every single human being on this planet has obstacles and challenges to overcome. Some of our obstacles and challenges are physical, outwardly, and some of them are inwardly, okay? So there can be a white guy who's the most insecure, paranoid man on the planet. Those obstacles and biases are gonna hurt him as much in business as the woman who lets her gender, as the African American who lets their race, as the blah, blah, blah. We all have limitations, okay? I believe our job as entrepreneurs is to understand what our personal limitation or what could be holding us back is, and do our best to work and move around that. So I think race and gender, I think it plays together, okay? There are places where African American men aren't allowed. Okay, fine. Go where you can be allowed. Partner with the people who will let you there, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's all, we've allowed the media, again, why am I bashing the media today? I believe this, though. We've allowed them to say these couple of things go here and everybody else here, but if we all learn to work together, regardless of what our challenges are, then we can actually get somewhere, you know? And we can sit there and we can partner with the people who are willing to help us and make space for us and allow us. So if 3 doors are closed, keep knocking. There will be an open one, you know? I do believe all those studies don't work with those people. There are 6 billion people on this planet.
It's not that those people specifically have it, it's just like that everybody has it, specifically if you're in a position of privilege. Like, that's kind of what the studies show, that
Yes.
people don't realize it, and they're not, they, you know, they might be the #1 fan of like every woman on the planet,
Yes.
but the bias is unconscious. It's like a sweat, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like a physical almost reaction. It's not something
Yes.
that they have any control over.
I hear you, so I'm gonna address it this way. When I raise funding for certain types of deals, I bring 3 old white guys with me. Because if I go in by myself, the guys sweat. I'm okay with that, I don't care. I still get my money, doesn't make me any less intelligent. So, I know at the end of the day, I need to get money from these people. My job is to figure out how do I get the money from these people. So if I have to bring all these other people with me, all right, we're all going to get the money. So what I'm inviting you to do is understand what are the support, how can you move the obstacle? Identify it, but move it. Move it. So partner with people, ask people to help you, get mentors, get support, move the obstacle, but don't let it stop you. If you want to make it happen, you can make it happen. I mean, look, I just heard Shonda Rhimes speak last night, and between her and Oprah, like, I mean, seriously, they're 2 of the most powerful women, and she talked about, last night, she was speaking about how she's the only one. Like, there's nobody else for her to talk to because she has accomplished something no other human on the planet has, right?
Yeah.
Yes?
So I'm kind of hearing a bridge here between the 2 of you.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hearing is, what you're speaking of is insecurities and undertones that people are raised with without them even acknowledging it or knowing it. But what I'm hearing from you are these obstacles that you've seen and you've overcome, but what I'm hearing that's not being said is the drive and the determination that you had to have in order to see this. So sometimes the vision of what you want can overcome the obstacles of what they think. You know, I mean, if you're focused more, I think it also has to do with focus and where your focus factor is. If you're focused on their undertone, then the focus is not on you and what you want. So your energy is being put in the wrong place. So at that point, you're really putting more into them than you are into you. So at the outcome, if you're not getting what you want, whose problem is it really and who really made that happen? You know what I mean?
I think it depends on the person as
Yeah,
well.
right, of
Because
course.
certain people sort of like thrive off being told no. You
Right,
know?
and
And
that's
others are
Like
like,
asking them.
you know, and other people are like, oh, well, I'm gonna tear down the barrier so I don't have to say no. You know, or no one says no to me
right.
or something.
But there's
you know?
people that are gonna want people to give it to them and use that as an excuse. And there's that person that, yeah, when they see no, they're gonna drive even further to make a point. So it's really just on you innately and how comfortable you are. If you're comfortable in your own skin, you're gonna understand you're gonna come across that opposition. And I think that's what she's saying. She's gonna come across it, she's worked with it, and then at that point you measure the pieces. It's like chess. You always gotta be 5 steps ahead. If you can see that this is gonna happen, that's why she has those 3 white guys behind her.
Yeah. That's some good points.
Yeah.
Nancy?
I'm gonna, I guess, go back a little bit because what you said about how you spend your day and making money really resonated with me, and I'm very curious about your, as well as working with people who work like you. So what if, I guess I have a 2-part question. One, what are some tips that you have to screen clients to kind of find the people that are great, that will make great partners and make great clients for your business? And when you find maybe that difficult client, what are your tips to kind of walk away and very graciously where everybody's happy?
Good question.
The one on that one. Actually, I want to pause your question. I did make some slides on some of my like top tips, and I just looked at the time. This is over at 8:30, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna get to my slides real quick, and then I'm gonna try and answer them in the slides, but if not, right after the slides. But I still want you guys to ask questions, but I kind of want to run through these things just so you can have kind of my baseline of what. Do I just press this? Enter. Okay. So my first thing is this. I have 3 major tips, and then I have some sub-tips, okay? My first guide to entrepreneurial success is cash flow, okay? If you do not have cash coming in, you have a hobby. It's very important. So I spend a lot of my time speaking to entrepreneurs and potential entrepreneurs, and they have all these great creative ideas, and they have this beautiful brand and marketing and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, how are you gonna make money? Well, so you need to start with this part, okay? We need to start with what is your cash flow, okay? So you do need to build a financial model. And we had a really interesting discussion today about what does that really mean, okay? All a financial model is your revenue and your expenses. It's basically like a fancy budget, okay? And you can Google to find out, what these things mean. And then when you build your financial model, at the top is revenue, at the bottom is expenses. Your job is to maximize your revenue streams and control your expenses. It's that easy. So when you decide, I wanna be an entrepreneur, okay, you're either gonna charge for services or you're gonna build a product. And I'm putting digital products under products. Okay, there's two things you can do. You're write down. My businesses are all services based. Some of the lifestyle ones do have products, but I didn't even talk about Samira's Table, that's a whole nother story. But most of my businesses are services based, majority of the businesses. My clients' businesses are product based. So I understand both areas. And the bottom line is you need to write, I'm gonna do X and they're gonna pay me. I'm gonna do X and they're gonna pay me this. I'm gonna do X and they're, okay. And then if you're selling products, I'm gonna sell, 500 sneakers, $5 a sneaker, blah, blah. That is what a real business is. So if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, make sure that you are starting with revenue streams. The lines on the top of the spreadsheet, people, okay? Also, you wanna control expenses. So the example I used earlier, I started a service business. All I need for a service business is me. I don't need a website, I don't need a business card, okay. Those things are nice to have, but I was able to get a client with none of those things. Again, don't exactly do what I did, but understand, I don't need to go out and buy and spend all this ton of money and then get a client. If I can get a client and then start spending the money, so you want to control your expenses as best as possible. There's a lot of bad advice out there. You need a website, you need this, you need that. Really understand, do you truly need it? And if you need it, can you buy a lesser version of it? Okay? The other thing is, you need continuous oversight of your financials, okay? You cannot read financial statements, you need to learn. Unless you have the most trusted business partner on the planet that totally understands that and you trust them to do all that kind of stuff, okay? But if you want to own your own business, you need to learn to read financial statements. You can take a class, you can read on the internet, but you need to understand this, okay? You asked me that question about clients. I'm gonna tell you the way that I can separate good clients from bad clients. My first meeting, I say, bring me your financials. The financials are organized and clear and the client understands them and can speak intelligently about the cash flow and revenue, et cetera, in their business, they're gonna be a good client. Their financials are a disaster, they're gonna be a bad client. It's my new test. I just created it in January, by the way. So you want to really understand these places. Financial, accounting, tax. You wanna have a really good bookkeeper, a really good CPA, you need a CFO at some point when you grow to be a certain size. You need to understand what these statements mean. You need to understand what the numbers are. You need to set regular monthly meetings to look at your numbers. Anytime you are having a problem in your business, it will show in the numbers, okay? And you can also fix things by looking at the numbers. And I'm not talking just about the spreadsheet numbers. So I'm gonna use an instance, if you're a businesses that uses the mind-body software to keep track of clients, okay? And you see your revenue has decreased, you start looking in your numbers in your mind-body software and you say, oh, these classes on this date aren't getting enough people, so let me make a change there. I'm gonna cancel that class, I'm gonna add a class here, okay? A lot of people make business decisions with no data. All the data you need is in your numbers. And so you have to make sure that your bookkeeping system is set up in a way that allows you to slice and dice and get very granular on what's going on in your business number-wise, okay? If you can't use your numbers to make decisions and understand what's going on, sit down with your bookkeeper and rearrange your system. You can arrange that bookkeeping system to do whatever you need it to do. But this is something that I spend a lot of time talking and teaching. I actually do a whole course on the financial health of your business, but it's very important that you understand this stuff. And if you don't understand it, learn it. Yes?
Where would be a good place to learn it, like a book, or do you have any resources or something that you use that you find particularly helpful?
I mean, you can literally Google financial statements or understanding my business finances, and there's guides and there's books and there's, but on the internet.
There's even stuff from universities.
Yeah, you can take, you can also do, also the Small Business Administration has classes where they teach this stuff. And you can also take classes at like community colleges or leisure learning, those kind of things. So there's not like an actual university class, but it's like a survey course or something.
Do you have a good software, budgeting software that you
I mean,
like?
we use QuickBooks.
Okay.
People still use Excel, you know, I mean.
I use Excel.
Yeah, I mean,
it's free.
It's good, yeah. I mean, it's good. There's nothing better, as long as you can look at the numbers and you're talking about them once a month. You need to sit down with your CFO who's ever doing your books. You need to sit down and look at all the numbers. Every year you need to budget out, project. I'm gonna make this much revenue, I'm gonna make this much expenses each month. Then every month, after the numbers come out, you need to compare your revenue. I said I was gonna make 50, I made 75. Awesome, let's do more of that. I said I was gonna make 50, I made 25. Why? What do I need to change? Every single month, you have to do this to be successful. If you don't do this every month, you're you know, just letting your business kind of, whatever. Every single successful entrepreneur I know speaks like this. So I don't know how many people you've heard speak, but I mean, it's all in the financials, it's all in the numbers. It's also in fundraising, if you're trying to raise money for your business, you have to, nobody cares about your slide deck if your financial model does not make sense. You need to understand your numbers, you need to understand why they're there, you need to understand what they mean, because that's the only thing you do. There's nothing you can put in a slide deck that will cover up a bad financial model. Any more questions about the numbers? My favorite subject area. Okay, the next area that I think, the second thing is staying power, okay? So to be successful in entrepreneurship, you need to get in the entrepreneurial game, you need to stay there. And a couple of things that I think are really important. So I think patience and persistence is one of the really key strategies. This guy who wrote this 4-Hour Work Week book is a liar. Nobody built a company on 4 hours a week, okay? No one, all right? Patience and persistence, and you have to believe that it's gonna happen. It's not always gonna happen on your own timeline. If you want to do X, I've always wanted to speak at the UN, okay, since I was 5. I did that this year. Okay, if I would have said I'm gonna speak at the UN before I'm 25, I would have failed. But I said I'm gonna speak at the UN, I'm gonna make that happen. I'm gonna keep trying until I make that happen, and I made it happen. So I really believe, I mean, at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is all about like it's like tenacity. It's like who can do this the longest without giving up. It's true. So under the staying power, I say you have to have vision. And what I mean by that is you have to know who you are, and you have to know what you want, and you have to know how to get it relentlessly. Like, do not give up, okay? I am Samira Salman. I want to be very successful and powerful and have a lot of money, and I want to be happy every day and do what I want to do with my time. I want to do the things I enjoy with the people I enjoy. I knew that when I quit my job, right? So how do I make that happen? I know that every single decision I make, every single project I engage in, every single meeting I take somehow matches up to that and some of those goals I've set. It's all part of a master plan. So I think you really have to have clarity on what you want to be doing and how you want your life to be, okay? And be brutally honest with yourself. It's okay to say things that you think might never happen. Like I didn't, you know, the whole UN thing, I was like, all right, I don't want to speak at the UN, but hopefully that'll happen someday. Well, it did. The second thing is integrity. This is really, really important, especially if you're gonna do like a service-based business. But you need to always do the right thing when you're an entrepreneur because your reputation is gonna be with you forever. In the corporate world, your reputation is gonna be with you forever also, but sometimes it's easier to be like, oh, my boss made me do it or my position made me do it. But when you're an entrepreneur, it's you and it's your name, okay? Your reputation follows you everywhere. And people do business with people they like and people they trust. They always have, they always will, okay? So if you screwed somebody over really badly in your entrepreneurial life, that's gonna follow you. And you're not gonna know when it's gonna bite you, but it's gonna bite you. So I always believe in doing the right thing, even when nobody's looking and even when it hurts sometimes you to do so. You know what I mean? But you should always do the right thing. I really believe in this integrity. So authenticity is what I was referring to earlier when I said write your own rules, okay? So when you quit your corporate job or you start your entrepreneurial career, you are going to have a lot of people tell you how things need to be for you, okay? You can try it, but if it doesn't work, make a different decision. So here's one of my favorites. You really need to pick one thing and focus on it and do it well. Okay? I tried this one. I had a company called Salmon Solutions. Well then, this baby came called Samira's Table, and it was like, I am coming and you're gonna do this Samira's Table thing. And I fought it for a long time. So it's like, I need to do one thing and I need to do it well and I need to focus on it. And this other thing called Gap came and it said, we're gonna do this international stuff and da-da. If I would have said, no, I'm only doing one thing. It doesn't work for Samira Salman to only do one thing. I have to engage in the things that make me come alive, okay? And that happens to be 3 companies. That's what works for me. There's also another thing, I'll speak about this a little bit in a minute, but I believe that when I say write your own rules, that comes to also how you live your life. So, because this is a primarily ladies group, I can say this. I like my nails done, okay? I like my nails done. I don't like to go to the nail salon on Saturday when it's a zoo. So one thing that really works for me is I have standing nail appointments on Monday mornings. There's nobody in the salon. It's super quiet. I get my nails done, it makes me happy. I used to feel super guilty and indulgent about that. And was like, oh my God, what? I mean, like, I hope nobody sees me here because I'm supposed to be working because it's Monday morning. But guess what? I'm working Friday nights sometimes. So I finally, it took me years, so I'm telling you all this now, so you can adopt this a little quicker. It took me years to really get comfortable with writing my own rules and getting my nails done in the middle of the day. Because I realized I really was miserable when my nails weren't done, like really sad. Not being funny, like serious, I freak out when my nails aren't done. So I said, I'm gonna write these rules that work for me. And so I think it's really important, like, take people's advice, but it's your life and you need to live it in a way that works for you. So unless you're doing something really harmful to yourself, it's okay to kind of, write your own rules and make it work. Support. You need a posse to do this, okay? You need a posse, and you have to build one, I think, early. You need to edit it often. So what that means is, build a really good team around you. But also, if your team's not working, my best friend says this, cut off the dead tree limb. Sometimes cut off the dead tree limb, okay? But your posse, I think, needs to be people who are aligned with what you're trying to do, and they're supporting you, and they're helping you. You should get mentors in different areas. So like, get somebody to help you with the financial piece, get somebody to help you with the marketing piece. Don't just get one mentor, get a bunch of different mentors, have advisors, have people that are really good at having difficult conversations, get somebody who's really good at financials, get somebody who's really good at building and growing brands, and ask them what they think. So in all my businesses, I have several different businesses, they have different focuses. I don't ask the same people for advice. So Samira's Table is a very creative business, and so I have super artsy creative people that I ask for help there, and people who are leaders in the digital branding world, right? Those aren't the same people I'm asking about what to do with Gap. They would have no idea what to do with Gap. So when I'm talking about building your posse, build your posse, but don't make it your best friends, don't make it your family, make it people that have the skill sets and the experience and the success in the areas that you need to have those things. I think something I learned early on when I hired all those people to help me when I was trying to decide what to do is hired help and arm's length help is a lot better than like asking your best friends what they think. Like half of my best friends don't even understand what I do, okay? They're stay-at-home moms or they're lawyers. They don't get this world. So me talking to them and asking what they think is great, but I'm not gonna necessarily get really experienced, seasoned advice. So be honest with yourself about who your support team is. And then the last one, this is the most important one, which kind of goes with the patience and persistence, but grit, okay? If you ask me what is the one key to my success, I would say hard work and paying your dues. Nothing takes the place of that, okay? Yes, there are people that are billionaires by the time they're 20. I get that, they're on the cover of the magazines, okay? That is not the reality for everybody in the world, okay? Most people get successful, become successful, and stay. Remember, it's called staying power, not get their power, okay? Most people stay successful by patience, persistence, paying your dues, hard work, step by step. My resume is really, really good. I don't have to work as hard as I do. I don't, but I still do my homework. I prepare for meetings, I show up on time. I still act like it's my first client. Why? Because that's what's gonna get me to stay where I am. You know, I've come across, unfortunately, I have some friends who, you know, kind of they got their funding, they got a little big for their britches, and now where are they? Filed bankruptcy. So, you take nothing away from this song. It's like, pay your dues and work hard, and be at peace with the fact that you may have to do a bunch of stuff you don't wanna do, with a bunch of people you don't wanna do it with, but in order to gain the experience, the respect, whatever, the street cred that you need. Does anybody have questions in this area? Comments, guys? Anybody? Oh, yes.
One thing that we discussed, some people get too comfortable. So they'll make a couple $100,000, they put it in the bank account, and they get too comfortable. You know, what do you feel about that? What would you advise about that? Getting too comfortable?
I mean, I think that's a really good point, because I'm not wired for that. I mean, earlier we talked about I have an 18 to 24 month cycle, so I like to keep going and going and going. I think getting comfortable is death, you know? I mean, it's death. You always have to figure out what's next, what's new, and that's the journey of entrepreneurship. It really is like, you're gonna start running, and you're gonna run until you hit the grave. Like, that is entrepreneurship, and you need to be at peace with that. Thinking you're gonna work really hard and make a bunch of money and then like coast, that money is going to run out, and then you're gonna have to start working again. So you might as well get on a nice steady track. Yes?
So you talk about staying power, and my question is to you, how do you convince your audience to buy what you're selling? Like, how do you get your services out there? Because I think for some of us, it's like we have a really great product, but how do we have the vision, the integrity, everything else, but how do we push our product out there, like, or our service?
What is your product?
Well, financial services.
Okay.
So, networking with people, getting to know people, helping them out with investing.
Yeah, you gotta figure out where the people are that need what you're selling. You're selling a service, okay? So you're really selling yourself. Whether you're selling financial services, legal services, whatever, you're selling yourself. So you have to figure out, how do you connect with the people who will buy you? I can sell anything to anybody. Why? I know how to connect with people. Gotta be authentic. You gotta not think about, I'm selling my services. You gotta really connect with the people and understand who they are. Ask them about their business, really understand. And then if you can really help them, then try and help them and offer them nuggets and offer them pieces. But it's people do business with people, people they like, people they trust, period.
So more to the execution of this. So I feel like you're either a detail-oriented person or a big picture person.
Yes.
I don't know, you see, maybe you're a detail, I really can't tell, to be honest, but how do you develop one? How do you develop one, or how did you develop maybe what was lacking?
I am really grateful for the fact that I'm actually both, okay? I can see the vision, the huge, big vision, and then I can break it down in little tiny action steps. That's my gift from God. If you're one or the other, you need to find somebody that can help you with the piece. If you're a big picture vision and you've done all this, you know, great, this is what I wanna build, you need to find somebody that help you sit down and break that into actionable steps, prioritize what to do, when, and how. If you are a detail, but you can't see the, you know, the forest, then you need to partner with somebody that can help you take your details and your skill sets and build it a little bigger. I mean, traditionally the model is, if you're the big visionary, you like found the company, and then if you're the detail-oriented person, you're the right-hand COO kind of person, right? I mean, I really shouldn't have been as detailed as I am. It's just because I happened to become a tax lawyer, like, it was accidentally. But my if you know my parents, they're like completely opposite. Like, my mom's all creative and whatever, and my dad's an engineer, so I got both skill sets. But you have to, that's what I'm talking about with your support and your posse. Like, you've got to make sure you have all the pieces of success around you. There's certain things, like one thing that I can't do, I can't program stuff, and I can't design. Like, I can tell you what I want my design to look like, but I can't make it happen. So some of the people I always first hire are designers and programmers and developers. I can't do any of that stuff, but I know I need them to be successful. So you have to hire or partner with the complete picture.
And in terms of, you seem to be, in a very good way, very professional, you seem to be a little bit emotionally detached. And I mean that in the most positive way. Well, by the way that you go about things, like see kind of the big picture, and not getting, like the way that you deal with whatever your obstacle is, whether it's being a woman or whatever. How did you it sounds like maybe that was learned, so
Yes.
what are your life hacks for that?
That is a great segue into my next one. My next slide. I think this is the answer to it, and I think this next slide is something that I don't really see spoken about a lot when it comes to these entrepreneurship talks, okay? So I put this all under the spirit and self section. You are a human body. If your human body is not working, you cannot build a business. That is a fact, okay? So under physical health, it is very important that you take care of your human body as well as you can. That means sleep, that means water, that means exercise, that means nutritious food, okay? When I built my first business, I did not touch alcohol for 6 months. Now, those of y'all who know me, know I like to have my wine and my champagne, and, okay. But I knew I had to do something, and I knew I needed to be focused and whatever, and clarity, and I knew that if I was out, I wasn't, okay. So that's what worked for me. But what I'm saying to you is, you've got to figure out also how much sleep do you actually need. There's all this like, some people can exist on no sleep, entrepreneurs don't sleep. I need to sleep. My money comes from my brain, okay? My money comes from being able to think and process and engage and whatever, okay? So if I'm tired, I can't do that. So I could only sleep 3 or 4 hours every night, but then I would suck during the daytime and I would have no money. So I make sure I sleep, okay? I don't need a ton of sleep, but I need to sleep. It's an activity I like to engage in. I can go without sleeping like once a week or so or whatever if I need to, but my point is, I know now, after years of doing this, exactly what Samira needs for Samira to be physically at her peak. I think that's something that's really important that we don't talk about enough, okay? Food is medicine. If you eat a bunch of crap, you're gonna feel like crap. So you gotta eat healthy food. I drink a green drink almost every morning. The other thing is, you need to figure out some way to ground yourself, okay? I think as an entrepreneur, there's something about grounding on the ground. So whether you're running on the pavement, you're on a yoga mat, you gotta do something to ground and like take it down. Because entrepreneurship is, I mean, it's a crazy journey. So I think that you have to figure out what that is for you, exercise-wise or whatever that is. But you gotta figure out what you need to not be a crazy person. I must practice yoga. If I do not practice yoga for too many days in a row, you will know it and you will not necessarily want to be around me. So that's something that works for me. The other thing is I love music and I work with music, I walk with music, there's always music on. It's something that helps me where I need to be, okay? So figure out what those things are for yourself. Some people like to eat peanut M&Ms during meetings. I mean, whatever it is that you need, I have to have a snack every 3 hours. Like, it's about snack time for me, you know? I mean, figure out what it is that you need to take care of yourself and then make those things happen, okay? And this is because you are your most important client. End of story. You're not at your best. You can't be the best leader of your company. You can't be the best parent, you know, spouse, sibling, whatever, okay? So it's very important. A lot of people think, oh, I'm gonna eat nothing and I'm never gonna sleep and whatever. That's gonna work in your 20s and for the short term, okay? But this is like staying power. You're gonna stay and be successful, you have to take care of your body. I really believe that. And you have to get comfortable with the fact that you take out time during the day to take care of your body. Most super successful entrepreneurs exercise in some form or fashion and they watch what they eat. So the other thing is your spiritual health. So I'm not up here to talk about defining spirituality or whatever you want to call that, but wrap it up. Okay, I see that. What does that mean? Whatever you believe in, however you do whatever you need to do, I think you have to remain super connected to that. I journal a lot, I meditate, I'm like in the zone. For me, I need to walk, I gotta be at the beach. Like, I know the things that Samira needs to be connected, okay? It's very important, nobody really talks about this enough, okay? But I believe that if you're gonna be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be plugged into something other than yourself. And you have to have perspective outside yourself, and you have to believe why you're here and how you're here, but you have to come up with the practices. So that's why all these things combine habitual practices. You have to figure out what do you need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis so you can function at your best, okay? I like to go 4 times a year to somewhere where I turn my phone off, there's water, there's yoga, it's totally zen. That's how I recharge, right? I haven't gotten to do that enough this year, but those are things that are important to me. And I wrote this funny article on Samira's table. It said to spa or not spa. And I used to feel guilty when I went to the spa, but I realized when I go to the spa, I recharge. I recharge well. That's where my brilliance comes. That's where my ideas come. And when I get out of that spa, my clients all benefit. My companies all benefit. So you have to look at it as these are things that are necessary for you to be at your highest and best self. And that highest and best self is the one that's going to generate the most income. Especially if you have a business or you're in a position where your brain is required to work. If your business is you're just, assembling widgets, okay, then maybe you don't need to be at your tip top. But if you actually have to think and create and solve, then yeah. So I think that's all for my my prepared comments. And then I wanted to answer Nancy's question about finding the people to work with and the clients and all that. That's one thing I really learned the hard way, and it took me a long time to hone some of that, because you hear things like, you gotta take whatever client comes to you. Well, when you do that and the client sucks, it makes your life horrible. So I learned the hard way how to fire clients and not take certain clients, and now I'm also very, very discerning about who I work with and how. I'm very grateful. I have a super supportive business partner who's right there, and I call him the spicy mustard because he helps. In the sandwich, you put the mustard in the sandwich, it keeps the sandwich together, and he helps me navigate through people's situations because it's not exactly my strongest quality, I would say. Like, I get a little impatient sometimes. So I know that I need to work with somebody that can help me navigate and not have to do so much of but also now I'm at a place in my career, in my life, where I'm really empowered. Like, if it's not working for me and I don't want to work with the person or the project or whatever, I bow out in a graceful, professional, respectful way, because I just know I'm going to be miserable and I don't have time for that, And also, I think what's important is you have to know the kind of environment that you can work in. I can't work in a combative environment where it's all like yelling and chest thumping and whatever. I worked in that environment for a long time in the beginning of my career, and I don't function well that way. I need, good job, Samira. We love you, Samira. If I don't work in an environment where I'm getting positive reinforcement, I don't really function well. It took me a long time to figure that out. So now, like, if there's the first signs of strife or yelling or combat or whatever you want to call it, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to work with that person really well. But that's why this piece is the most important. The more you can know who you are, be honest with yourself about who you are and what works for you and what doesn't, you're going to be more successful earlier on in your career.
Should we take this exam? How do we find out who we are truly? How do we work? There's this exam, I think, what is it? Myers-Briggs. Should we all take that? Because it takes. How can we know who we are and how we work? And you know what I mean?
It takes experience, but it also, you got to get a journal, people. Journals answer all your questions. Okay, get a journal and write. Don't type on the computer. There's something about the physical act of writing. So say, who am I? What do I like? I figured all this out by writing through what the problems were. So it's like, why do these certain types of clients drive me crazy? I figured because they don't take their financials seriously. It's just a hobby, and their marketing is really great, but it's a train wreck on the back end, and they're not making cash. I can't work with those people. So I would journal the Myers-Briggs. So I took the Myers-Briggs, and they told me I was part of this management team at KPMG, and we all took the Myers-Briggs, and then we all had our Myers-Briggs analyzed. And they came to me and they're like, we've never seen results like this, because I was like on the lines for like 2 of them, and they're like, we don't know what to do. The facilitator said this to me. And they were like, you just fade over there. I'm like, all right, so I keep the Myers-Briggs. Because they were like, you don't fit in any of these boxes.
What were you?
I don't remember right now, but I was on the line of too many of them for them. It was like, but there is a test called the Birkman, Birkman. And if anybody wants, I can set you up with the people to do it or whatever. That test really helped me a lot, because it's my Birkman results. I was a corporate tax lawyer, and when the lady read my results, all she knew was my name and what my test results were. And she goes, what are you? I said, a corporate tax lawyer. She said, where do you work? I said, an oil company. She looks at my results, she's like, you need to quit your job. And I'm like, what? Because my Birkman results said I need to be in management advisory, art, dance, literature. That's what my results said. And I was a corporate tax lawyer at an energy company, so clearly I didn't fit. So that test worked for me. So if you're a little weird, take the Birkman. Anybody else? think that we're almost out of time.
I
Yeah.
have a quick question about partnerships. So it seems like initially you didn't have a partner.
Pardon?
Initially you didn't have a partner. It was sort of a self-starter, you sort of self-started it. And I think that's really important because I actually tried to partner too early on, I think. And it's sort of because my partner wasn't as motivated, it sort of also took away my motivation. And I feel like it can really sort of make or break your business if you're, if you're not on the same page. And if you don't ground yourself.
Yes.
If you don't
So
establish your own vision.
I actually started, I have something called Own Your Bliss also, which is a book I wrote and a process that's dormant right now until I have time to deal with it. But that was a partnership, so it was my very first business before Salman Solutions. So I had Own Your Bliss, which was a partnership, and I had my W-2 paycheck job, and then I quit my W-2 paycheck job to open Salman Solutions because I also used the Own Your Bliss process on myself as I was doing all that other stuff. But my point is, my first partnership did not work because my partner didn't have this burning drive to be successful. And actually one of my advisory board members is the one, two of them pulled me aside and they were like, this ain't gonna happen for y'all. So then I did my own thing for a while, and then I've tried, other arrangements. But the reason I have a partner now is because I wanna do stuff that I can't do without him, and he wants to do stuff he can't do without me. But, my invitation is only enter into partnerships if you absolutely need to, but if there's something that you can do on your own and get something started and then build your credibility and build your business. The only reason that I have Gap and a partner is because I built Salman Solutions to here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anybody else? We have I think 5 more minutes. Y'all are the best audience ever. You really are awesome. Carlos, do you have another question?
No.
You sure? No, I'm sorry I cut you off earlier.